Hello, BookTube. Well, it's Friday once again, and I have a small selection here of Friday reads. I actually remember to do Friday reads on a Friday again. The reason it's a small selection, of course, is bad news. It's because it's a long weekend here in America. There's a federal holiday on Monday, so my post office won't be open, so there's no reason for me to leave the house, and my mail won't be delivered, so there's no reason for me to even get out of bed. But you'll be hearing plenty of complaining from me about that in due course. I thought for now I would show you the things that are on my immediate radar, starting with a trio of books that I found used that did not come in the mail. It seems like increasingly, as my weekly book count increases in the mail, I increasingly think that there's some sort of offense involved in me reading anything that I find in a used bookstore, since I have so many books coming to me that are new that need my attention. But nevertheless, I'm as hooked on it as the rest of you. And the first one, I actually found a Penguin Classic Deluxe Edition. You never see those in used bookstores, or I never do. And it's one of a book that I've only read once and that I read eons ago. I've never tried it again, never read it, clean, from a clear adult perspective. And that's The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. Monumentally important novel, of course, in social history in America. But how is it as a novel? I couldn't tell you. I don't think I read it for that reason. I think I read it for its social reasons when I read it the first time. So this time, I'm going to read it as a book, just as a novel. I'm going to do that this weekend. The next one is a biography. You all know how I love biographies. This is by Nancy Hale. It's a biography of Mary Cassatt. I'm right now researching and working up a review on Claude Monet. So I'm interested in that whole time period and movement and all the people in that extended artistic circle. And I've never read a biography of Mary Cassatt, I have to say. She's cropped up in a couple of historical novels that I've read, but I've never read an actual biography of her. So this will all be new territory, and I love that. And then the last one is a favorite of mine. I don't think I've mentioned him on this channel before. Harold Brodkey. This is Sea Battles on Dry Land, a collection of his essays. He's a marvelously thoughtful, antic, subversive writer of fiction and nonfiction. I love his novels. I think they are out of favor, and I'm pretty sure they're all out of print. But if anything, I love his nonfiction more, and his nonfiction is gone off the pale. So I was very happy to find this, and also it's such an attractive edition. That's very nice. I've read most of these essays before. In fact, I'd be willing to bet I've read them all, but it's been so long and so piecemeal that sitting down and reading them all, reading a gigantic bunch of them together, will be just a marvelous experience. I may do that one first. And then I've got 4 new books to show you that I'll also be reading this weekend. The reason they're quite a few of them are fairly short, and these the Brodkey and The Jungle are rereads, so there is room here for expansion, and there will need to be expansion because the weekend is one day extra. The first one is by James Duane, and it's called You Have the Right to Remain Innocent. It's a very short pamphlet on what to do when you're confronted by the police in an ordinary situation. They want to ask you questions, they want to pull you over, they want to take you out of your car. Anything normal that a normal, not you holding up a 7-Eleven, but anything that a normal citizen would encounter in the course of a normal week. Duane did a YouTube video that's been viewed millions of times on the essential argument of this book, which is when it comes to questions of how and why and when to talk to police, there's a simple answer: don't do it. He makes a very good point early on in the book, and he's made it many times in many lectures and in person. I've talked to him a few times. A policeman who encounters you in America, who encounters you out and about, has a legitimate duty requirement to know 2 things from you: your name and what you're doing where you are right at that moment. Not when you came, not how long you've been there, not why you're there, what you're doing right at this moment. Who are you and what are you doing? And aside from that, Nothing. And he makes the point. I haven't read this book, but I know his material backwards and forwards. He certainly won't deviate from it. I'm glad there is a book, and I will be getting a couple of extra copies for people I know who are in impoverished inner cities where the police rule those streets like medieval warlords, and where it might help to know. The key point that he makes is that the police are not your friend. They're not trained to be your friend. They're trained to trip you up. They're trained to get you to do something that will help them in their job. So when a cop stops you on the street and says, I have a few questions just to help clear things up, this will help you as much as it will help me, say, officer, I'm not answering any questions. I prefer a lawyer. And if a cop pulls you over for a quote-unquote random stop, at a police stop, first of all, those are illegal. And if a cop says, roll down your window and give me your driver's license and registration, you roll down your window a crack just enough so that you can be audible, and you say, I'm not giving you anything and I'm not answering any questions. I want a lawyer. Period. Now, the author has filmed himself doing that many times, and many other people have done that and filmed it, and the reactions from the police don't do them any credit. Many smashed windows, many hurled epithets, many examples of people with unbridled power encountering the slightest bit of resistance. And as you probably know in your own life, when people with unbridled bullying power encounter the slightest bit of resistance, they go into a psychotic break of overreaction. It's not just that it offends them, it's also unthinkable to them. It's like gravity working upwards. There's a whole video that could be done on this, but if this subject impinges on you in any way, especially if you're an American, I urge you to get the book and read it. It's I don't think it's that expensive. Yeah, it's $10, and I'm urging you to do it even though it's published by Amazon, who are almost as evil as the police. but I urge you to do it anyway, because a lot of Americans don't know what's in there, and they should. Anyway, that was a long digression. The next one is something I'll be reviewing, so I'm reading it for the second time. It's Vanity Fair's collection of writers on writing and writers on other writers. It includes all famous stars from their stable writing about famous literary figures. Graydon Carter, well, of course, was Christopher Hitchens' editor, and Hitchens appears in here no less than 3 times, which is a little bit overdoing it, but Carter's also a businessman, and he knows that will help sell the book. But there's a lot of great stuff in here, and I can't wait to write it up. And then the next one is a provocative novel. It's by Steve Erickson. It's called Shadowbarn. Comes out next year, I believe. Yeah, it comes out in February. And it starts off, from what I've heard, I haven't read it, I'll be reading it this weekend. It starts off with a provocative setup, which is that here, let me read it. When the Twin Towers suddenly appear in the Badlands of South Dakota 20 years after their fall, nobody can explain their return. To the hundreds, then thousands, then tens of thousands drawn to the American Stonehenge, including the 2 main characters, the towers seem to sing, even as everybody hears a different song. So this is we're coming up on the 15th anniversary. This is the 20th anniversary, and the Twin Towers entering into magical realism and contemporary fantasy. Be odd to read. I like the author, so we'll give it a try. And then the last one is this thing. I think I've shown it on this channel before. It's Mary Aiken's book, The Cyber Effect. And it is billed as an amazing decipherment of the pioneer cyber psychologist explains how human behavior changes online. And we all know that it does. I think I may be a little too old for whatever this psychological phenomenon is, because mine doesn't. But I know people who will sit down to a meal with me in the middle of the day, chatting about World of Warcraft or Pokemon Go or their classes, and laughing at my jokes or whatever, and then they pull out their phone, they type away for a few minutes, I say, what are you doing? And they say, I'm just leaving a comment And later on, I see the comment, and it's unbelievable, unhinged vitriol, under an anonymous moniker, of course. And I have a strong suspicion that people, young and old, do that kind of thing on a regular basis. And this book will, I guess, purport to tell me why. I'm certainly interested in knowing why. Let's see. Mary Aiken is a PhD. She's the world's foremost forensic cyber psychologist. She's the director of the Cyber Psychology Research Network and an advisor to Europol, and has conducted research and training workshops with multiple global agencies, including the White House. Her research interests include cybersecurity, organized cybercrime, cyber stalking, technologically facilitated human trafficking, and the rights of the child online. And she's based in Ireland. Good Lord. That's impressive. I didn't know that. Well, so anyway, that is... boy, these videos are going longer, aren't they? Sorry about that. So there you go. We've got the Cyber Behavior Online, Vanity Fair's Writers on Writing, Shadowbond by Steve Erickson, You Have the Right to Remain Innocent by James Duane, Sea Battles on Land by Harold Brodkey, Biography of Mary Cassatt by Nancy Hale, and The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. And that is a bit of my Friday reads. Now, if I remember, or if you remind me, I will do Monday morning. Monday morning, well, I'll do a video on Monday anyway, complaining about the holiday. But I'd like to start doing a follow-up video about what my reading on the weekend really was, or even just that video and skip the Friday reads. But either way, I'll see you shortly, BookTube. Thank you for your patience, as always.